IVM.
When you track successful entrepreneurs, there is one thing that emerges as a trend. They all focus on building a business on the clear fundamentals of profitability and scale. And when this is paired with the ability to build a brand that has a pulse on popular culture, it's a sure shot recipe for domination. A great example of a brand and company that has done exactly this is boAt, not just through their products across the consumer electronics segment, but also by ensuring they're constantly on the pulse of popular culture. And today, I have their co-founder and CMO, Aman Gupta, on the show to not just talk about their journey and how he believes this sector is evolving, but also tap into his recent turn as one of the sharks on Shark Tank India. It's a ton of stuff to talk to Aman about. All this and more coming up on Advertising is Dead. I'm Varun. Be right back with Aman Gupta.
$100. That's all it takes to begin your journey with Bitcoin and Ethereum. No, really. With CoinSwitch, you can start investing in over 100 cryptocurrencies with just 100 rupees. On top of that, there are zero charges for deposits and withdrawals, so you can trade, buy, sell, however and whenever you want. All of this, plus their extremely intuitive interface, makes CoinSwitch the perfect app for beginners in the crypto space. But don't take my word for it. Just download CoinSwitch for free and try it out for yourself. If you'd like more information on cryptocurrencies, tune into a show about crypto with me, Rohan Joshi, my new adventure on IVM podcasts. CoinSwitch, kuch to badlega.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We're talking to Aman. Aman, we're finally doing this. I think you and I have discussed doing this so many times over the last few years. We're finally doing it. I'm happy. It's at an interesting time for you.
Yeah, everything happens at the right time.
Yeah. I think whenever I talk to people about our interactions, I've always spoken about the fact that the work we did together during the early period, I would say, of boAt. And then we also are on a WhatsApp group, which is supremely entertaining on most days. And now I'm one of those people who talks on podcasts about how you are exactly the way you normally are on Shark Tank. So it's been a nice transition for me on the outside to say that. But I think it's super exciting to see what you've been able to build, and there's tons of stuff I want to ask you, because I think that you've shared a bunch of those with me over time, beyond outside a recorded session. But I thought it'd be good to kind of bring some of those in.
And I used to call you guys as virtual CMOs of the company, if you remember.
Yeah, we were virtual CMOs for a while there, and
correct.
I still remember that, and this is, I think, one of the most defining points of how I remember you, right? Is that you would look at everything that has to be created from the lens of saying at no point was anything a splurge. This is what is required. This is how much it will cost. We will not go beyond this cost. This is how much it's and
yes.
I think that's, and you speak about openly, right? I think one of the when I was doing my research, the statement that it kept coming up was saying, if you're building a brand today, doesn't mean you're not going to be profitable. That profitability is right up there.
Yeah. We are, but you know, I always do that statement that we are Banyas by birth and Gujaratis by birth is my co-founder, and chartered accountant by qualification. So ROI is like in our blood.
So if ROI is in your blood, at which point? So I want to kind of start off from where it began, right? At which point did the idea for boAt kind of come about? How did it happen? Just go more origin story of sorts and saying this is what we were both doing, and this is how it happened. How did it happen?
So, the market was changing at that time, Varun. There was, a lot of these old school brands which were there in the market, and they were very boring. They didn't know how to connect to the audience in a language the audience could understand. They were not talking the same language. The products were all blacks and whites, and, products were boring. The market was different. The pricing was weird. Either they were too cheap Indian Chinese players, or they were too expensive German and American players and Japanese players. So we found a niche in we thought there is a great gap in between, where if you make the product awesome, where you make the brand aspirational and the price affordable, I think the magic can happen. And that's where we thought that, I was working for JBL at that time. And, I knew audio. I knew how to do that. I knew the changing consumer and the changing market globally. I didn't know Samir, to answer your question, Varun. I didn't know Samir at all. So I met somebody whom I call Panditji. And Pandit ji वो शादी कराते हैं ना जैसे, so we call him Pandit ji because he introduced Samir and I. So he was like, Samir meet Aman, Aman meet Samir. Samir wants to start an audio brand, but he has the money, but he doesn't know how to do it. Aman, please meet Samir. Aman knows how to build a brand, but he doesn't have money. So both of you are required to build a brand together. so so that's how I met him. And magic happened. We did not, my family, we had some losses in partnerships. So partnership was a definite no go for my family. But Samir and I met, and I felt it was like again the same language. It was love at first sight. I knew what he could do, and he knew what I could do, and it helped. It helped. He's based out of Bombay. I'm based out of Delhi. That is also another big thing that people used to say initially. अरे एक जगह से करना चाहिए, founding team एक जगह होनी चाहिए. And we were based in different locations, but still, both of us wanted to do something different, and it just started.
You mentioned that when Panditji was getting you together, he said you know how to build a brand. I've always found that your perspective on building a brand is unique. So if you had to kind of put down and say, how do you look at a brand being built? Because in many ways, we are filled with options today. And if you want to buy anything online or anything in a store, the brand is more important than ever.
Sure.
But how do you look at it? What for you defines a brand and how you build it?
So, when we were starting off, we did not know brand building, none of us. I'll tell you how we started off. Samir didn't know marketing. I also didn't know marketing, frankly. But what we knew was how to understand and study the consumer. Eventually, marketing is about, marketing definition, when I started off was more, when I was an MBA, I went to ISB also. There was, I didn't study marketing there. I studied finance and strategy there. I have basics of marketing in me, right? What are the basics? 4 P's. I just know that, which is product, place, price, and promotion. I don't know the jargons. I don't know. If you put me into a marketing panel, you will understand and feel that boss is bande ko to nahi aati marketing, because the other 3 will talk much better. They will know how to speak the language which only the marketers understand.
Yeah, we live in that pond.
And I don't understand that. So I am very basic in terms of understanding what the consumer wants and giving it to him. Not jargony, not over the top, not underselling myself, but being right. So I think the consumer was changing, if you ask me. Consumer को पहले ना लोग मतलब ऑन द फेस होती थी मार्केटिंग कि बॉस मेरा प्रोडक्ट खरीदो, मेरा खरीदो, मेरा खरीदो. हमने क्या किया ना, हमने बहुत सटल ब्रांडिंग करी वरुण. We did music videos when people said, "अरे पागल है, म्यूजिक वीडियो कौन करेगा? Why are you doing music videos? It is waste of money." मैं को म्यूजिक वीडियोस आज भी करता हूँ मैं. मुझे लगता है कि I don't tell the consumers to buy boAt. I still don't tell them. I just keep showing them boAt here and there. I keep showing them that influencers are using boAt. I keep showing them that, in music videos, you have to be seen.
Correct.
But you can't be on the face. The millennials today are smarter than the earlier generation. They will read between a sponsored post and an organic post. There are headphone brands which even the Indian cricket captains and these guys came out with their brands and it didn't sell. Right? It is not that the product was bad or the brand was bad. It is just that the consumers read it that the captain is trying to promote a brand. The erstwhile captain is trying to promote a brand. That means it's a branded play. That means it's sponsored. You know what I mean? So I think we did things for the consumer rather than neither for the investor. If we didn't do it for the marketers, we did it for ourselves and the consumer. Full stop.
And that's, I think, the most important point in today's world. Right? I think that oftentimes you get stuck with jargon, you get stuck with this is how a brand is built, and everyone goes in. You and I have had long chats, I remember, over strategy and what that even means for a brand. And I remember those lengthy conversations. I feel in today's world, consumers looking at it from saying, okay, what value am I getting from you? Is this actually clear value? And also, like, how does it fit in culturally? I think that the music video part is interesting because you in many ways kind of kicked off this whole piece about saying, can you show your brand across where culture really is? In many ways,
subculture.
And you're putting across subcultures, all kinds of in that sense, right? But when you had to even like look at that aspect, and I think even influencer marketing, I think was at its nascent stage then. How have you been able to sustain the culture piece, right? Because in many ways, you're still the center of culture in many ways here. You
Yeah.
still see it across the board. How have you been able to sustain that?
So I remember, I used to meet people, Varun. I used to meet people like Vijay,
Hmm.
people like you, and you guys, were doing a lot of stuff on the brand building side. And I remember Vijay telling me, Aman, let's make your brand, there should be love on the brand. So let's get some celebrities on board who can position your brand differently.
Hmm.
And there is some aspirational value you can create.
Hmm.
Then I asked Vijay, यार ये सब तो ठीक है, इसकी फिल्म बनानी है, कैसे बनाऊं? And Vijay is like, I have a very good friend of mine, meet him. And then he introduced me to you, I remember.
Hmm.
And then I came to you and you said, what do you want to do? I said, I don't want to build a big film which everybody else is doing. I want to do, I am an impatient guy as Aman Gupta, right? And I remember I told you कि मेरे को ना ऐसा कुछ चाहिए कि the consumers don't want to listen to the same thing again or
Hmm.
they don't want to see the same thing again. You said कि क्या करना है फिर मैंने बोला ऐसा करो कि बहुत सारी फिल्म्स बनाओ मतलब छोटी 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 छोटी. So that was the first time I think you guys also made like 30 or 40 small 10 10
In one
20
day.
15 seconds in one day.
Yeah.
And then slowly, so this we started making this, and then slowly, after 2 years, I read a term called snackable content,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
And if you put it back, what we did was actually snackable content 2 years
Yeah.
back, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, which actually became relevant in 2016 because most patience नहीं है,
Hmm.
impatient generation है, and impatient generation को आप रोज नई चीज दिखानी बहुत जरूरी है.
Yeah.
If I'm still doing the old age marketing, I remember some marketers came to me and said, "Arey, if you have taken a brand ambassador, you have to spend 6 times the money on the promotion on the brand.
Hmm.
पेपर करो, होर्डिंग करो, ये करो." और मुझे लगता था कि बॉस वो वेस्ट है. मतलब पहले तो एक तो पैसे भी नहीं थे हमारे पास.
Hmm.
दूसरा, what we did was we used to show new content every week. And
Yeah.
it was like the brand was changing every week. And
Yeah.
even today, I maintain that, if we don't have even only one brand, but we've got like 25 of them now,
Yeah. Yeah.
and we'll come to that. But we keep churning content which is different. Now, if you talk about subcultures, now AP Dillon, we signed him up last month. I have never in my life got so many requests for passes for a
Hmm.
concert than I got for AP Dillon. And I didn't know that guy 6 months back, but I studied the millennial population, the Gen Z.
Hmm.
I have seen craze like Michael Jackson used to have. I
Yeah.
love AP Dillon like that. Crazy craze,
Yeah.
right? So Michael Jackson के टाइम हमारे टाइम में Michael Jackson होता था. I love Michael. वो
Yeah.
होता था एक,
Yeah. Yeah.
that love.
Yeah.
I saw the same love for AP Dillon. And people were going कि मेरे को इससे मिला दे, इसके concert पे जाना है. And people went crazy about it. Now, how did that happen? We understood that the consumers wanted, their music preferences changing, are changing. Their stars are changing.
Yeah.
Now, AP Dillon is a bigger star than anybody else in India today. I can
Correct.
vouch for that.
Correct.
So we contacted him in Canada. We said, यार हमें इंडिया में आपका शो करना है. इसने बोला यार हमें इंडिया में आता ही नहीं, क्या करना है, कैसे करना है. हमने बोला कि आप हमारे ब्रांड एम्बेसडर बनो. He has no brand till now. He
That's
is
crazy.
not a brand ambassador of any brand. We are his first brand and only brand. And
That
we
is
just
crazy.
contacted him. ठीक है?
But
And
it also shows that how people aren't like, and I think that's the most important part. Like you are tapping into culture, saying this is what people are listening to and contacting. But I feel that in
yes,
many ways, brands don't do that. Many of them don't do that.
brands, पता है brand managers बहुत, as you rightly said, advertising is dead. I think CMOs will be dead soon if they don't evolve with the changing technology. Today I get, you and I are in part of the WhatsApp groups. Every day there is a new Instagram follower, content marketing pitch deck which has come in to make even the creative artists technologically, advanced, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there is technology at play even in marketing today. I would say that.
Yeah.
So old age marketers को क्या होता है ना, उनको एक पिच आ जाती है, बस ये करना है, उनको बस ये दिखाना होता है कि कितने नंबर्स हो रहे हैं, मिलियंस ऑफ यूजर्स डालने हैं.
Yeah.
उनको ये दिखाना है कि we did this campaign, it was like 100 million views. Whether that campaign was relevant or not, I think there is a disconnect between the consumer and the old marketer. My marketing guy is 24 years old, and these guys.
Yeah.
And I keep changing and I keep bringing fresh talent. My marketing team is handled by 20 to 25-year-old guys. That's it. The day they become 26, they are shifted to maybe sales or some other division, but they can't be relevant to the audience. I think above 25, you don't understand the audience. You will only learn, read, listen to podcasts or to news channels or to TV and try to understand that consumer through different means, but you are not the consumer. You don't know the consumer. The consumer is evolving every day.
Yeah.
If these guys were not there, I used to study. So if you remember, Varun, मेरे पास ना बच्चे होते थे 24 25 के
I
year,
remember
and I
them.
used to surround me with people around, these people were around me always, because their way of talking, their way of life, their way of understanding the market was totally different.
Mm.
Concerts is more important than cars for them. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, so true. And you were talking earlier about signing Epidil and also the fact that you had 25 brand ambassadors, if you call them that. And I remember when Vijay, the C Word collective artist, introduced us.
Yeah.
And one of his main things to me is that he said that you're going to throw questions at me, which normally brands don't throw. So you have to be prepared. He gave me a disclaimer, right? And this is when you turned to me and you gave me that point of 30, 40 in a day and all that stuff, I'd come with a disclaimer, so I knew what was going on. But what was the thought process behind having so many? Because I know for a fact that I would constantly see you. There were obviously musicians, cricketers, there were people from Bollywood. There was a constant focus on, okay, there were multiple people at any point of time connected to the brand, versus most brands go the opposite and say, okay, I'll have one or maybe two faces.
Yeah.
What was your thought process on that?
तो पहले जब हमने स्टार्ट किया था ना, तो when we were starting off 2016 17 में, so we had a few one brand ambassador, and then we had multiple people used to say you are crazy, brand should be related to, and big marketers who won CMO of the year awards, they used to come and say अरे एक होना चाहिए, दो होने चाहिए, तुम खराब कर रहे हो. And look at 2021 22, all brands have multiple brand ambassadors, right? I feel what changed and why we were different was because India is a continent, is like the earth. Right? It's not, everybody looks at different things. I, Aman Gupta, love Bollywood. Okay? So I'm a Bollywood fanatic. There are people who only watch cricket.
Yeah.
There are people who like one guy over the other guy in cricket also. There are people who like IPL over test matches. There are people who like influencers and fashionistas and fashion bloggers over even celebrities today.
Yeah.
There are people who love music and they look at music from a very different eye. Some like Bollywood music with Neha Kakkar, some like Punjabi music with Diljit or AP Dillon. इंडिया में हर किसी को हर अलग अलग चीजें चाहिए, राइट? मेरे को मतलब दैट्स व्हाट आई फील दैट India is not made up of people. Some people, now if you look at the youth today, they are liking football more than cricket. They love talking about the last Manchester United or the English Premier League game than talking about India versus South Africa, probably. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and India is different. Every Indian has got his own passion points. And that's what I thought that is right. And we caught them very early. If you look at when we did Kiara Advani, she had not even launched. The first movie was not launched. And look at her today. She did not even have 2 million followers. And look where is she today. When we got hold of Hardik Pandya, people, a very good friend of mine, I sent a picture, hey, my first brand ambassador, Hardik Pandya. And he's like, अबे कौन है ये? मैं तो जानता भी नहीं हूँ. You know what I mean?
Correct.
So people didn't know him. Karthik Aryan was one movie old when we signed him up, right? Shreyas Iyer, we had signed him for 2 years back, and now he's just got into the Indian cricket team.
Yeah.
Rishabh Pant, he was not Rishabh Pant before we signed him.
Correct.
So, we caught hold of them as emerging brands, right? We could not afford a Virat Kohli because he was very expensive for us. So we thought let's take these younger guys and we will also grow and they will also grow. And today, they have grown to become what they are. We have grown. And it's not that, because they have grown, so they have started, their prices goes up and everything. But to answer your question, Varun, in one line, India is made up of different Indias. And this is a reality. This used to be there. पहले लोग बोलते थे और ये बात सच है. South Indian community will look at a different star, and we are now, suppose we are targeting the South Indian community, we are looking for a star or stars from that community. So बहुत अलग है इंडिया. हर एक का पैशन अलग है, हर एक का कल्चर अलग है. And if you don't target them, and you lose out on that community,
Yeah, I totally agree on that. I think what's also interesting in that front is that if you bring in emerging people as well, and if that is almost what you're kind of tapping into, and obviously then everything else, it also makes the brand aspirational, right? You're not seeing, like you said earlier, like if you look at the biggest cricketer or the biggest actor, sometimes you will kind of feel, okay, that's like almost like, okay, that's a longer route, but you're like, these are guys coming up. I'm also kind of coming up in my life. This is a brand for me. I feel in many ways you were actually able to tap into that. And what I feel is also interesting is that right now you can get the brand across all spaces. Just how you approach D2C, I thought was always interesting. Obviously, you've always had retail as a focus, but just from what makes a strong D2C brand today, because D2C obviously is an important part of every business. What according to you is something which people don't look at as seriously as they should when trying to build a brand in today's like digital plus retail environment?
पहले क्या होता था ना, ब्रांड मार्केटर ना निकल जाते थे क्योंकि एडवर्टाइजिंग करी, मास स्केल पे प्रमोशन करी. अभी क्या है ना, you get instant results, right?
Correct.
D2C is all about very quick results. And when we started off, no, we used to be called as online brands. There was nothing known as D2C earlier. पहले हमें बोलते थे कि यार तुम ऑनलाइन ब्रांड हो. अब ये suddenly has become a cool word, the D2C word. But it is happening, man. It is happening. Look at us. We also grew from being an online brand to an offline brand. I think the biggest mistake people do is that people feel that D2C is only about getting the right matrices, right? The CACs and the ROAS and all that, ROAS and all that. No, D2C is also about performance marketing. Plus, it is also about brand marketing. It is not only brand marketing, and it is not only performance marketing. It is a combination of both. Eventually, this is what you can do. But again, going back, the product has to be good enough. The price has to be amazing. And where you are selling is very clear, direct to the consumer, because there are no middlemen. So I always believe that the feedback is also instantaneous to us. Whether the product is right, price is right, everything is very instant to us. So that is what is D2C. You should not forget that D2C में सबसे बड़ा word है direct to consumer. Keep that consumer in mind. He is changing, bro. He is changing every day. And if you don't change with him, he's going to change the brand, because consumerism is at all-time high and consumer brand loyalty is at all-time low. So if you don't catch hold of him and keep him engaged, he's going to say, bye-bye. Nice knowing you. I'm going to the next brand.
Yeah, I have a bunch more things to ask you, but I know we need to go for a quick break. So just going to do that and be right back with Advertising is Dead.
Are you looking for finance products and services that can enhance your personal finance experience? Are you looking for a space to talk about your financial product or service? And are you looking for a crisp talk show where the conversation is all about money? Well, your search ends here. Hi, my name is Aman Gupta and I'm host of the Paisa podcast, and I invite you for the conversation about your personal finance on each Monday on the IVM podcast app or the website or on any podcast streaming platforms. See you folks.
Welcome back to Advertising is Dead. We're still talking to Aman. Aman, I mean, we've spoken about a lot of things, but in recent times, you also had a lot of activity going on as one of the sharks on Shark Tank. We cannot not talk about that. And I'd also explain, we've referenced a WhatsApp group many times in this conversation. So people, and I just want to give context, there are a few of us who are on a WhatsApp group and we discuss startups to invest into. Sure. Aman has obviously gone from that small WhatsApp group pond to now being a shark on television. But what made you decide to do it? What was in your head saying, okay, this is something which I think would be interesting to do, and how has it been?
You remember, Kaval, right? Of Fireside Ventures. In fact, yes. I wrote to him in 2017, 18, and I said, sir, I want to shark in my company to help me grow, right? So I've been influenced by Shark Tank for last 10 years. I've been watching the US Shark Tank, and and that has helped me a lot in becoming a better entrepreneur and in understanding the startup world. So I've been a Shark Tank fan all my life. When this opportunity came to me via the Sony guys, I was happy, emotional. I was like, it was a different feeling. I just hope that they had like a lot of what do you call it, screening tests. They've taken 3-4 interviews on screen and everything, and then finally just a month before the shoot started, they said that you guys are in and you are in, and this is how the schedule looks like, and we are happy to. And till the first day I went to the set, I was like still thinking that is it still a dream or is it like a reality? So for me, Shark Tank was something which I really wanted to do. I was excited about it, and when I went there, the first question I asked these guys, the Sony TV guys, और बॉस इंडिया में इतनी स्टार्टअप्स हैं नहीं, बिकॉज जो स्टार्टअप्स होती हैं नॉर्मली they are already taken by the VCs and the angels, and they are, today in India there are more angels than the startups also, is what I used to
That
feel.
is so true.
Yeah. Suddenly I go there and I see outstanding startup
Yeah.
who don't know a lot of things. So I was able to relate to them 10 years back that was इनको मतलब they are एक झाजी करके company थी which was an achar company based out of Bihar. They were companies coming from remote parts of India, from Madhya Pradesh, from कहीं से बिहार से झारखंड से. It was India में entrepreneurship is now going to the next level.
Yeah.
And that is the best part. It is Shark Tank is not about that 1% of Twitter or LinkedIn audience who like to debate on everything, who like to comment on everything. And it is not for them. Please don't watch. First, there are a lot of people who are obsessed with the US way of life and dollars and Shark Tank US and the Firangi way of life.
Yeah.
This is not for them. You will, first week of Shark Tank aired in India, it was so much criticism. I can't even tell you.
I remember that.
This is not you do. This is not how you do it. This is not how you do it.
What is this language? What is this? What are they saying? And
what are they saying?
I think also I came from the other side because I worked in television, right, for the longest time. And I'm like, this is what is, and I realized what the audience was on I think minute 2. I remember when you were wanting episode when you were asking for the jalebis. Jalebi khila do wala jab hua tha. I'm like, this is exactly what we need, because many people don't know that there were attempts to do a show like Shark Tank in the past, which I think aired on business channels, which were exactly trying to be like the American one, which all failed because you can't be serious. You have to have and it needs to be desi in its best, in its most core part.
मैं उसका ना एक आंसर देता हूँ. इंडिया में ना, हॉलीवुड में ना, पिक्चर जो बनती है ना, वो 1 घंटे ही होते हैं जिसमें कोई डांस नहीं होता. आज भी इंडिया में कोई पिक्चर देख लो तो अगर शाहरुख खान, सलमान खान डांस नहीं करेंगे ना तो पिक्चर नहीं चलेगी. इंडिया है बॉस. इंडिया को इंडिया के हिसाब से समझो. इंडिया में अगर आप खाली बिजनेस की बातें करोगे तो आंटीज बोर हो जाएंगी. अगर आप इसके इंडिया में ऐसी बातें करोगे बच्चों को नहीं समझ आएगा. हम लोग पता है क्रॉस प्रॉफिट की डेफिनेशन बताते हैं. हाँ, हम बताते हैं वैल्यूएशन का मतलब क्या है. वी आर टीचिंग द ऑडियंस अबाउट CTC, D2C, B2B. नहीं पता इंडिया में. What we assume people will know, people don't know. I am very happy that I did this show there are people who are, they are young guys from 10 plus. And there are people, this has become a dinner table conversation where aunties are talking, uncles are talking. पहले जो लोगों को बोलते थे ना, स्टार्टअप मत ज्वाइन करो, कोई बड़ी कंपनी ज्वाइन करो, आजकल हर बाप अपने बच्चे को कह रहा है, बेटा तू स्टार्टअप क्यों नहीं कर रहा. हाँ, तू मेरे फ्रेंड का है कि मेरे पापा ने मुझे डांटा है कि तू वहां पे जाके पिच क्यों नहीं कर रहा. तू तेरी कंपनी अभी वहां क्यों नहीं पहुंची. एंड द टाइप ऑफ बिजनेस these guys are getting is crazy. That achar company has done sales worth 1 year already, which was their target. Bummer has got a 10 times all business. He doesn't have supplies for the next 2 months. The underwear brand I'm talking about. They are getting such a big traction. There is education. There is learning. This is what the new India is. So I loved it. I did not expect it. Week 4, I'm talking about it. People are going crazy about it. It's an amazing show, and I'm very proud of playing a small part in the Indian startup ecosystem.
And can I tell you, just adding to what you said, is that I remember this one tweet recently, which I think is a clear definition, that when people were in their early 20s, I think we used to all watch roadies. Now people are watching Shark Tank, and I think that's the difference. You're putting something in front of people which is aspirational. The aspiration used to be, let me go on roadies and eventually maybe get onto TV. The aspiration, let me go on to Shark Tank and be an entrepreneur. I think that's a good progression.
And only Ranvijay is common.
Only Ranvijay is common.
The comparison with roadies is also because of Ranvijay, I think. Because people are saying, why are people talking to entrepreneurs like this and all that? So it's got a mixed feeling, but there is more positive than negative.
No, I think it's definitely positive, and I think it's needed. What we often don't realize is that you need to be able to go broad and really talk like how a large part of India talks, to be able to connect with them. And this like just the way it's built out, and like the startups you spoke about, we always talk about startups and the companies as to being these Silicon Valley-ish funded companies, but people build businesses have to be funded, and that's what you guys have been able to do. I'm publicly proclaimed you are my favorite shark. I'm telling you, I have said it on multiple platforms. In that sense.
Otherwise, there's a leave button here.
At this point, I want to ask you something, right? Because you mentioned a few times that the kind of team you like to build in, certain age group, etc. When you look at, and this is like a two-part question, when you look at startups that you want to, invest into, or when you look at people you want to hire, what are the things that you look for? What do you think in today's business world? What do you think people really need to have?
So there are two types of startups. If you want to talk about my investment philosophy and how do I look at things, there are two startups. One is where people like you, Ankit, and all those guys, who know how to do investments. You guys do investments, right? I don't know how to do as much investments as you guys do. So I just piggyback on you guys and just say that if you guys have done your due diligence, I play a passive role of an investor there. I don't do active investments there. The other part is where I do an active investment. These are the companies where I feel I can add value and I will give my time to them. And the entrepreneur doesn't need a CMO here. He just needs advice. I feel in my life, I have been a biggest beneficiary of people like Kaval, Vijay, Nikhil, all you guys, that you've been able to guide me on what is right for me, right? And if I am able to connect those dots for these new entrepreneurs, that कोई बोलता है अमन मेरे को ना वीडियो बनाना है, तो बोलता है यार ये लिच का नंबर ले या किसी इसका नंबर ले, कोई मेरे को सेलिब्रिटी चाहिए या तो इससे बात कर ले. It's just about connecting the dots, talking to them and mentoring them and advising them to do that. If they expect me to do that stuff, then I'm sorry, because I still am running boAt and this is my baby and I can't leave my baby to run your baby, right? I will grow up my baby because the challenges of my baby are different at this stage and I have to handle them.
Yeah.
So if there is an entrepreneur who can run, and I bet on entrepreneurs, that is my way of life. If they are, I don't care about the industry they're in, because any industry you can do, if I could work on a commoditized industry and make a difference in my industry, I think anybody can do that in any industry today. If the entrepreneur is good, he'll figure out. Like you said, I used to sell something else earlier and now I'm selling something else. If the entrepreneur is good enough, if he has logics, IQ, and he has the ability to listen, then I am with you. If you need me, then I'm with you. If you need only valuation, and I've never lost, even in Shark Tank, if you've seen, I don't lose deals because of lower, I only lose deals because somebody has got a better, lower valuation. I've come with a price. That boss, मेरा प्रीमियम है. अगर तुम्हें मैं चाहिए तो मेरे को प्रीमियम देना पड़ेगा. अगर सस्ता डील लेनी है तो प्लीज ये सस्ते लोग हैं यहाँ पे इनको जिनकी डील आप ले सकते हो. So I don't go into that price war to win a deal. But for me, that entrepreneurial passion, that hustling spirit of that guy, that is what is important for, or that girl is important for me to be, an active investor with him.
And when you look to hire someone in your team, what do you look for?
मैं तो क्वेश्चन पूछता हूँ. मतलब I ask them, boss, what is the craziest thing you've done in your life? And if the craziest thing is that they have top out the school building, for bunking their class or school, I think they're not fit for us, right? If the common answer I get from a lot of girls is, oh, I went for a solo trip. It is not crazy anymore. So I define my people with the craziness they've done and how they will be able to adapt to the crazy culture of boAt and how they will be able to add value to the marketing and sales team. So, the other teams are done by my co-founder, Samir, and there you need stability. But in my team, you need hustle, you need craziness, you need pagalpan, you need passion. I look at those elements. I don't look at education at all. My CMO, my all these guys are not even graduate, but they know that what they're doing.
I was reading, I think there was an interview of yours where you said that the most important thing that you focus on is happiness. And I thought profitability and happiness both came up.
Yeah.
We've spoken of profitability.
Yeah.
What do you look for in terms of happiness?
Happiness खुश रहना चाहिए boss. I'll tell you frankly, Varun, if you look at the show also, if you look at Shark Tank also, I am happy. I'm not wearing I'm not wearing that in front of me where I have to act for anything. I feel, it's not that I don't take my business seriously. And I said it in the tank also. In my business, I'm a gunda, right? I will be as aggressive aggressive as possible in what I'm doing. And I like aggression. I'm very aggressive. But how can you not be happy in what you're doing? Otherwise, you will never be happy, right? It's just simple that, you'll keep looking for something else. I also do that. But be happy in what you're doing. Be happy in the people around you. Surround yourself with positive people. Have fun. Enjoy life. Life is too short, no?
Yeah, life is too short to not focus on being happy with what you're doing. I completely agree on that front. I don't think any form of anything. I think the growth, money, any of those things don't matter if you're not happy doing what you're doing at that point. I think that's the most important thing to focus on.
I'll tell you, to add on to that, when I was working for a consulting company, and my wife was like, I used to crib every night coming home. हाँ, मुझे नहीं करना है, मुझे बहुत बोर होता है, मेरे को मजा नहीं आ रहा है करने में. So then eventually I did what I wanted to do. I was very happy in doing both, because now I don't feel like as if I'm working, right? The biggest problem is people look at jobs as 9 to 6 and they're like, यार काम करना पड़ रहा है. अगर काम की तरह करोगे ना, तो you will not be able to bring your 100% in. In my company also, there are so many people who join in for X, but eventually I let them do Y if they like doing Y.
Yeah.
So the category manager who joined us actually joined us for doing category management, but now he's the operations head of our company because he loves doing what he's doing, and now it doesn't feel to him that he's working.
Yeah.
So he's happy in his job. He's not, every day is a Sunday, then every day is a Monday.
Yeah. That's so true. So speaking of Sundays and Mondays, what are you looking forward to in terms of, you obviously now grown it to multiple categories as a brand, what are you looking at this market as? What are you seeing as trends coming up that you are really focusing on, without giving anything which you don't want to give away? But what are you looking forward to in terms of where you kind of building the company towards?
We just launched our wearables, the watches, and and we just announced an acquisition yesterday. We're also, today we announced a Make in India chapter that we will soon be making in India. So it's an Indian brand at heart, but we were importing our products from outside, and slowly we are starting our transition into Make in India. It's the vision of the Prime Minister also to start making in India. India should, and they are supporting the entrepreneurs. They start supporting Indian startups. India is going through that phase of where people are not caring too much about Firangi brands and all that, and people don't mind buying Indian brands. So we are in that phase of going into wearables deep. Wearables and Make in India is our next big frontier we want to capture.
Towards the end of every episode, I ask my guests a series of questions. These have nothing to do with work. These are random. Okay. For you, I'm adding in an extra question, which I thought would be fun to ask you. Who's your favorite shark? Because you've been watching Shark Tank beyond India for a long time. Who is your favorite shark?
I like Mark Cuban and Robert beyond India.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are cool. They're not as rude to the entrepreneurs like probably different some other might be, and they know what they're doing, and entrepreneurs come and ask for them. So these are my favorite sharks in Shark Tank US.
Beyond boAt, beyond Shark Tank, beyond everything else that you do, what do you spend a lot of time doing? What keeps you entertained, excited? What's your favorite thing to do beyond work?
सांस लेने का टाइम नहीं है वरुण आजकल और सच बता रहा हूँ
एपिसोड हो गए पहली बार आया है आंसर एवरीबॉडी हैज अ लॉट ऑफ थिंग्स टू से पहली बार आया
अरे नहीं अरे बोट में इतना कुछ चल रहा है वो संभाल लो फिर शार्क टैंक में चल रहा है वो संभाल लो अभी बहुत कुछ चल रहा है आई गॉट 2 किड्स उनको संभालने हैं सो इट्स नॉट अभी आई डोंट हैव टाइम टू डू एनीथिंग एल्स इन लाइफ frankly speaking
and I think that's also a good place to be. I think at some point and you, like you said, if you're happy with what all you're building and doing, then you don't need extra things to do.
But I just have to now go back to my new relatives which have come in, because there is a saying, right, success is relative, right? But after what I realize is after becoming successful, there are more relatives which have come into my life. So I have to now go back to so many of these new relatives. I don't have time for them also, so I have to now start organizing my life a bit to take out more time to do other things in life is what I feel. But अभी तो time नहीं है boss. अभी time लगेगा structure लाने में.
What can you put together in an instant?
मतलब?
What can you, if you have a minute, what can you put together?
Maggie. मेरे को समझ नहीं आया. In what sense?
It's an open question. If someone says what is the quickest thing you can come up with, it can be food, it can be an idea, can be anything else. It's a very open question.
That's what I said. No, Maggie probably.
Yeah.
Nothing else in instant or what else? Nothing. Instagram dekh lunga. That's what I do.
while you said you don't have time to consume anything else, have you had anything that you watched, listened to, or read recently that you'd recommend? Have you had time to catch up on anything?
It's surprising. I don't know whether I should say it, but I've not read books at all. When I was doing my MBA, somebody said, why don't you read books? Because it helps you in reading faster. When I was doing my CAT. So somebody suggested there was a smallest book possible called Jonathan Livingston Seagull. That was a very small book.
Yeah.
And I took like 2 months to read that. And then after that, now last year, somebody suggested, why don't you read this book called Shoe Dog? It's a very, it's got a very similar vibe to what your life has been. So why don't you read it? I started an audiobook and I have not been able to complete that also for 1 year. So I don't read books, unfortunately. In terms of movies, it's all about series and it's all about Netflixing nowadays. So
nothing as much. I'm going to actually ask you, I'm just trying to think of my last question. My last question is generally a take on the name of the show. But I actually want to ask you this. Why do you think, I'm just trying to figure the right way. So what will not die is generally how I try to close this sort of. Actually, I should ask you this. Why do you think advertising will not die? I'd love to hear your answer to that. Or will it die?
That's a part of your show, and I should have listened to some of your episodes to come up with a better answer. I've never listened to any podcasts, Varun. Imagine I have to start looking at life very differently. Time milega to main ye sab bhi karna hai. So advertising will never die because without advertising, everything else is a commodity. Without branding, without advertising, everything else is just a commodity, right? If you don't bring in the love, if you don't give the message and the purpose of the brand to survive, then it's again a boring life. And if it's a boring life, boring brand, boring people, then it's better to die.
I don't think you need to prepare at all for this one. That's actually a great answer to the question. And I'm going to send you podcasts which might actually be easier for you to do, because I'm a person who likes to listen to short podcasts, like 5-minute, 10-minute episodes. I'm going to send you some to me. Maybe I can get you to start listening to podcasts that way.
Yeah, it's like, it reminds me of those school days. जब पढ़ाई करने के लिए books होती थी, and then there used to be some kunjis बोलते थे हम लोग हिंदी में.
वो Xerox का copy मिलता था साइड में.
छोटा सा मिलता था, वो रट लेते थे तो उसके सारे आंसर. तो I am the kunji sort of a guy.
I'm going to send you the podcast kunji. Thanks a lot, Aman. Thanks for coming on the show. It's been fabulous. I'm happy we finally did this, and can't wait to see what's kind of coming up for boAt. And we'll continue to watch Shark Tank and see what all you do.
Sure, man. Thanks. And it was a pleasure here, Varun. And sorry I was late on this, on coming to the show. And, जो कहते हैं ना कि हर चीज का अपना टाइम आता है. So हमारा टाइम आज आ गया था to be on the podcast.
Perfect. Thanks, Aman. If you like this podcast and you want to listen to more podcasts like this, head over to the IVM Podcast website or app or wherever you get your podcast from and look at all the podcasts that IVM makes. There's some really fun stuff there.
Hey, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On The Habit Coach, former Mrs. India Madhuri Sharma shares her fitness journey and the experience of working towards winning a beauty pageant with Ashton. On Raw and Organic, founder Jitendra Choksi tells Kunal what it was like building his fitness community fitter. Should the government impose a price limit on film tickets? The Pulyabazi hosts contemplate this in their new series Ek Sawal Kahi Jawab. On Tede Mede Raste, Keshav travels to New Mexico and tells us all about it. And on Marathi Kirkitun, the Deshmukhs talk about insects and their part in the cycle of nature. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you're enjoying this show or any of our other shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Don't forget to rate us on any of the platforms you're listening to us on. And also remember, you can check out a lot of our stuff on YouTube. Go to ivmpodcast.com/YouTube and you'll get a list of all the various channels that we do have. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, Bank of Baroda and CoinSwitch Kuber. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Working Monday to Friday glued to your chair making you feel dull? Worry not. Get your 5-minute weekly dose of travel around the world with postcards from nowhere. Join me every Thursday as I explore the strange, obscure, and fascinating parts of the world and bring out facets of travel you may not have thought of before. You can find us on the IVM Podcast app, website, or wherever you get your podcast from.